Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MakerDAO Scientific Governance and Risk Meeting, number 147, taking place on Thursday, June 24th at 1700 UTC. My name is Long for Wisdom. I'm the governance facilitator at MakerDAO, but hopefully not the only one, not for much longer. We'll soon see. Yeah, as always, we've got our kind of usual general weekly updates. We've got a segment from, I believe, the Ducks incubating core units. I forget what it stands for. I'm sure they'll tell me later. Yeah. So we know that as a segment. We may have some discussion topics as well. We need to kind of confirm with a couple of people when we get there. Yeah, I'll just do the usual preamble. We have these meetings to kind of to sort of discuss and answer questions from the community and from anyone who's interested. So please don't be shy if you have questions or comments in response to anyone's updates. Please go ahead and voice them. All right. Cool. With that, then I think we'll start with me doing an update on governance. So let's see. For polls, we've got a few things going on right now. We've got 4 green light polls active, which started on Monday, and those are for Matic, MC Drop, Gnosis, and HPT, which I forget what it stands for, but that's in there as well. We've also got the June ratification polls for the monthly governance cycle. Those are still active, and they're ending next Monday. So if you haven't voted in those yet, please consider doing so. And then we also had our two weekly polls this week that have finished. Both of those passed. The first one was enabling the debt ceiling instant access module for the USDC-A PSM, so that we don't have to keep sort of manually up increasing the debt ceiling or modifying the debt ceiling. And then a second one to investigate offboarding certain vault types that haven't seen significant use, which also passed. So that's kind of a directive to the mandated actors to investigate potentially offboarding those vault types. So last week's executive, I do not believe has passed yet, last time I checked. So if you haven't voted in that, please consider doing so as well. That includes the Flashmint module implementation or mission activation, and also some changes to the debt floor of most vault types. So please consider voting there if you haven't already. As for this week's executive, we may consider skipping this week, as there's only one piece of content that would really go in, which is the aforementioned changes to the debt ceiling instant access module for USDC-A, PSM, USDC-A. And yeah, like there's just not really much else to go on. So we might sort of just bundle it with something next week. But we haven't kind of made a final decision yet, so we'll kind of let everyone know tomorrow probably. So maybe see what protocol engineering say in their update. Cool. So to give a brief update on what GovAlpha, like our core unit, has been working on. I've been working on the kind of quarterly review, sort of reviewing everything we did in the last 3 months, kind of commenting on its effectiveness and kind of what we can do better in the future. So hopefully that'll be ready early next week. I'm kind of sort of halfway through writing it at this stage. Other point is we've had some initial onboarding meetings with a number of community members who've expressed interest in doing some work for GovAlpha. Those have by and large gone pretty well. We've got a couple of those new people working on some starter tasks. So we're kind of looking forward to getting them more engaged and more involved. And then the final thing I was going to mention is that the launch timeline for delegation is getting a little bit more firm. We're not quite ready to announce the public date yet, because it's still a little up in the air. But we should be able to share more details soon, maybe next week, maybe the week after. If you're interested in being a delegate when we launch delegation for Maker, please get in touch. I believe we have 4 confirmed delegates or so far for the launch. It would be good to get another few. So if this is something you've considered doing, please get in touch. All right, I think that covers my updates governance. Does anyone have any questions for me before I pass it on to Peyton? Okay, Peyton, do you want to give us a forum at a glance?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me drop the link here. Cool. So pretty active week. I'll let you read through the 3-point summary and the announcements on your own, but we do have some neat discussions going on in the forum I want to highlight. Juan put together a post on a framework for real world assets, kind of basically bringing in a bunch of questions you'd like to see answered and a framework set up for helping people evaluate real world asset collateral types, perhaps with a little less overhead for the general community. Lawn for Wisdom threw in together a really good piece on some thoughts on liquidity, specifically kind of looking into the idea of like how LUSD would work in the PSM facility. And finally, we had a user Replenish 2030 who threw together quite the elaborate post on like, will make or thrive in the bear market, like if we keep calm and carry on. They say yes. So a lot of really good thoughts there. Some about the struggles we're facing in terms of governance and quick adaptation. So definitely encourage giving that a read. We do have 3 signals to highlight this week. The first one was one that we had, I guess, last couple of weeks, but we did extend it due to lack of participation, and that's Ultra Shoopy's signal on adjusting the TTL, which is the bid duration on flap auctions. So basically looking to shorten the period at which surplus auctions get settled. Next, Paper Imperium, I believe this is his first signal he threw up there, so congrats on that. Is one on raising the stability fee on real world assets types when the issuers unilaterally change terms. So this is in reference to the drop token agreement, which does allow asset originators to change certain terms, provided they give a notice to all drop token holders. That obviously affects us when we're using them as collateral. So we do have like a lot of debate on that one and some good stuff to read through. And finally, Alexis put together a signal request on shortening the PPG process. That's the parameter proposal groups, basically looking to see if there's any way we can get the group's recommendations on chain for voting faster. So that's it for Forum at a glance. Let me know if you have any questions or want to see some other things working. Back over to Long.
Cool. Thank you, Bruce. Let's move on to, I guess, protocol engineering.
Yep. Hey, everybody. Chris from Protocol Engineering. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, we had some carryover work from last week. So the sushi join adapter work where we're ensuring the correct behavior in the event of ES carried over. And then we did some more work in crop join, gas optimizations, improved manager contract implementation. We have the D3M, which is sort of in the final round of cleanup. And in vote delegation, we added this sort of 1-year expiry to the vote delegation process. So, and then for like contract optimizations, there was a bug in the, it wasn't really in the auction demo keeper, but if you are running the auction demo keeper right now, there is a bug in gas or let's say a gas bug that will cause it in the worst case to consume like the max block gas. So if you'll want to fall back to a version before the LP tokens. So we worked on a fix for that, and that should be pushed shortly. There's a PR. If you just watch that, it'll be resolved. And then for just reviews and documentation, I think it was Kurt put together like a really good document defining magnitudes and ranges for all of the DSS parameters and quantities. And so this is going to be useful for any like people that are trying to integrate. It's useful for us, and it's going to be useful, I think, for formal modeling and whatnot later. So, and then we did like a little bit of like risk scenario analysis around what we're calling the Oracle tail risk. So this is this is outside of like Oracle's domain. Like once we ingest Oracle prices, there are just sort of for defense in depth, there are additional safeguards that we can provide. And we were kind of going through what those might be. This could be or turn into the sort of liquidations 2.1 update. It may just be like even a larger sort of system wide or MCD wide bit of resiliency around like Oracle's something to that effect. But we're just sort of like putting our black hats on and thinking of like the types of failure and attack scenarios there. And we're also doing a DSR entity relationship and system modeling with block science. And we have Certora reviewing the Optimism die bridge and then helping us with this sort of tooling and all of that. And so that's another type of kind of like formal verification that we'll be doing on them. So Water was asking, is the risk analysis public? It's not yet, but it's actually in a pretty good form right now, and it will be posted publicly once we get through it. So, and then I wanted to sort of highlight, if anyone has an objection to this, let us know. But the protocol engineering team is thinking about pivoting off of like most of the projects that we were kind of looking at, and in the short term, focusing on like collateral onboarding. So this doesn't mean like abandoning L2 or anything like that, but we're thinking about ways in the short term to try and get die supply up. And so we've got like a couple items that we're thinking about prioritizing with the other mandated actors and governance, but we're looking at this concept of institutional vaults and possibly even like permissionless versions of them. So let's say like conditioned vaults that, like if an institution says they like variables X, then we say, okay, well, let's make this available to anybody as long as they meet like, parameters X, Y, and Z, they can create a vault with these particular parameters. We're looking at stake death right now. So we're doing the technical analysis of stake death. We've obviously we're doing the Shishi join and crop join stuff, which will add additional supply and LP tokens. And we've been looking at, obviously D3M and considering this like additional PSMs in addition to USDC. And I think Sam is reviewing the GUNI, which is the gelato token, which is a type of aggregated LP token for Uniswap v3. So just the general idea that, instead of working on like DSS Gov or, one of the other MIPs that was like higher in priority, we're thinking in the short term, we need to get up non-USDC styles of collateral to help balance the sort of collateral risk. We can discuss that later if you guys want. And then I'm going to actually hand off if Chris is here from the protocol engineering team. Another Chris, Chris 2.
Sure.
Second Chris. Not
yeah.
I'm going to hand off for an L2 update.
Yeah. So here's a quick update regarding layer 2. So we've been working on layer 2 risk framework. So a document describing different architectures of layer 2s or just scaling solutions, and outlining the risks for maker, and for example what would be the worst case that could happen if we decide to deploy DSS on such solution. So we're working document on something like this, so governance can make like educated decision later on what should we do with different scaling solutions and so on. Then we're still working closely with Optimism. So our bridge is already conforming to Optimism standard bridge, but there are also today we found one rough edge that we need to fix. And we're, fixing UI. We're working on testing UI integration as well as testing things like cross-chain spells, for example. And then we have also work related to Arbitrum. Arbitrum is finalizing now their standard bridge, and we're gonna work with them to create DAI version of this bridge. And that's it, I think. Thanks.
Yeah, so I have one more team. Thank you, Chris. One more team update. So we have 2 new team members, and I wanted to give them the sort of opportunity to introduce themselves. So let's say first, Julian, who joins the protocol engineering team. I don't know if you're on the call, but.
Yes, I am here. Thank you, Christopher. Hello, everybody. My name is Julien Martin. I'm a developer from France. I have a master in cryptography, and my experience is mostly in the financial sector. Sorry, I am a bit nervous, but that is mostly because I am really excited for being here. I have been following MakerDAO since 2017, and I am really happy to be a part of it. So voilà. So I really hope to be able to contribute a lot to this community. Merci.
Yeah, thanks, Julian. And then the second team member who just started this week is Tal. I don't know, Tal, if you're on the call, if you want to say a few words.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Hope you can hear me. So, so I've just joined this week, and I'm originally an embedded software engineer and manager. I've joined the blockchain space in 2018. I worked in Kyber Network as a smart contract engineer, working on projects like WBTC and AMM, and all sorts of reserves in Kyber Network. Also working on the Kyber's EOS contracts. And later on, I went to work for an algo trading firm, working on liquidations and arbitrage contracts and all sorts of that stuff. I've also been following Maker for a long time and really excited to be here. That's it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we're excited to have both of you guys. So that's it for us. If there's anyone else on the protocol engineering team have something they want to say that I missed, and if not, then if there is any questions, feel free to ask them. Wouter, with regards to you're asking if legal risks would be taken into consideration for things like stake death in collateral priority, or let's just say any of the sort of collateral prioritization framework stuff. I think right now we've got like the sort of broad set of teams that take a look and they do a gut check right now just to get like that initial score. I'm not entirely sure if there's like already a category for like legal risk, but that would probably fall under risks domain at this point. So we should, if we don't have one, maybe we should consider adding a column that plays into the score for legal risk or whatnot. So.
Yeah, I think I had the same question Matt just posted. Optimism, they said July, but I don't see anything that. So yeah, so I just wonder if you guys have heard anything.
Yeah, I don't know if Bartek's on the call or if Chris is on the call. I don't know any specific dates, but and I don't know if we can say any dates, but.
Yeah, I also not sure if we can say anything more specific, but I can only hint that there will be like a, intermediate deployment again, like they did with SNX, right? Like there's already SNX live on mainnet, right, for many months, and perhaps you can expect something similar.
So Chris, that's like an invite only front end, sort of what Arbitrum is doing with AnySwap?
No, it should be publicly available once it's done.
Okay.
So anyone will be able to move their DAI once it's working to L2, right?
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
All right, Long, I think back to you.
All right, thank you, Chris. Yeah, and welcome to our new protocol engineering members. All right, let's move on to oracles. Nick, do you have an update for this week?
Yeah. So we just started doing the production rollout of a tool called Gopher that we've been working on for the past year. So this is a kind of big step for the team. I guess primary improvement here is that what we were previously doing is, let's say you wanted to get the price of something like Ether, right? It would go off and look at, okay, what exchanges and what pairs do I need to go query to get the price of Ether and compute that. Instead, what this new tool does is it's constantly kind of polling all the exchanges, like all the pairs that we're interested in, kind of having that data kind of cached locally. So then when you want to grab the price of something, you don't have like this blocking kind of behavior. So it actually improves like the latency in terms of like us being able to grab like the most recent price, because we don't have to wait round trip for all of those kind of API requests to go through. So excited about that. In the coming weeks, we're also going to be rolling out a tool called Spire. And Spire essentially is a alternative network to Scuttlebutt. So those two networks will basically be running in parallel and add an extra layer of redundancy. So if there's ever an issue with Scuttlebutt, price messages can be grabbed from Spire. And if there's ever a problem with Spire, right, messages can be grabbed from Scuttlebutt. So this is kind of the culmination of like for both of these tools of over a year's worth of work. So we're very excited to finally get these out. On the core unit front, we are finding our footing in terms of how we want to structure things legally. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but the polling vote for the Oracle core unit looks to be going well so far. So that's good to see. We're kind of starting to figure out in terms of staffing, like what hires we want to prioritize, what projects we want to prioritize, and kind of setting up our internal processes, our internal infrastructure. So a lot of stuff kind of going on behind the scenes that you don't necessarily get to see, but things are definitely moving. Yeah. I think that's it from my end. Actually, the staked Oracle, the staked ETH stuff, we've been reviewing the Oracle code for that. We were, I think I talked about this on previous calls, whether we were going to kind of use the feed-based architecture that we traditionally use for collateral onboarding. Or if we would use the Oracle contracts that the Ludo team came up with. And I think we're going kind of with the in-between path. So we're going to use their contracts. They look really solid. That being said, we're going to deploy our own instances of those contracts because they are upgradable, and we don't want an external team to be able to upgrade Oracle that's being used in the maker protocol. Right? We don't want to have that attack surface. So we'll basically be redeploying the same code that they do, and we'll just kind of have the overhead of if they ever do an upgrade, we'll similar to you need to upgrade as well. Yep, that's it for me. Any questions?
Just one quick question for you, Nick. Have you looked at integrating like the CMEs, like real-time index data for the ETH price as a potential feed, at least to compare to for the Gopher project? Because it's largely doing what it sounds like it's doing something similar as something to compare to.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think one of the first things we want to do price is kind of go through all of the existing data models for all of the existing collateralized things are constantly happening, right? Volume, feature, right? And so the data models we have now going through and updating things. Data for ETH and for BTC, I think this falls within that category.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Nick. Let's move on, I suppose. I believe Primosh is not available today. Marco, are you giving the risk update?
Yeah. Hey everyone, Rema or Marco here from the RIS team. Yeah, unfortunately, Primož couldn't join us, so I will do this week's update. In regards to the regular or ongoing work, we were working on 2 collateral valuations, Matic Polygon and staked ETH from Lido. The descriptive parts are more or less completed, but we are still running some simulations and adding relevant data and these simulations to the risk dashboard. Because staked ETH has the main liquid market on Curve, we also had to find a way of collecting that data. I believe these 2 reports will be published soon, and all the relevant data will also be included on the dashboard. We are also working on the direct deposits DAI module risk assessment relevant to Aave platform. This analysis is proceeding fine as well, but it's just not that straightforward, so we need a little bit more time. Then in regards to the development of the risk dashboard, we are working on some things which are not visible right now, namely addresses labeling. So we will have a better picture of vault users, like what kind of structure we have, which apps they use to open vaults, like which vaults are related to each other, and if they're protected with some protocol like DeFi Saver, and just like similar things. Then in the past week, we did add something which is already added. This is centralized exchange trading volume. Before we only had 1 aggregated chart, while now there are 2 more charts, aggregation by exchanges and also aggregation by trading pairs. This is basically it from our side. If somebody wants to ask something, please do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Marco. All right, that brings us to real world finance. Sebastian?
Yeah, thanks. So for this week on the Nuclear front, I published the postmortem on the notification issue that you can find on the forum. Nuclear is also updated by including an independent director, and we will start the audit of the legal structure next week. And also they have audited, Centrifuge has audited the lending side of the TLAC contracts. So they will make some increase, but at least we know that improvement. But we know that now the contract is certified, audited at least on this part. So other part was already audited, but the lending side wasn't changed a little bit to be integrated with the maker. So for the silvers, I will also ask probably next month about an increase of the debt ceiling they have. Currently, they have 5 million. So they are using the 70% of the debt ceiling. So they want to continue to have a business relationship with us with a higher debt ceiling. For the next centrifuge batch, so those 4 assets, assuming that People's Company will come anyway quite late because currently the legal structure is not done. It's still delayed as they had the centrifuge at the audit that delayed things a little bit. And it seems to be in the way of adding independent director first before adding them to maker. That will be a step last to do in the future. And they will have the new notification system as well. So that's also an improvement. On the SolarX front, it might be delayed. It will be delayed a little bit as well because, as you expect, there is a lot of paperwork on their end. And on the legal side, Christian has worked quite significantly, and now the solution on the Cayman side will be to use the Cayman Foundation. So I think it's quite the same as the Maker Growth Foundation. But what is interesting with the Cayman Foundation is that it will be able to take orders from the DAO. So that's a legal entity that we can use for whatever we want, and by directing it from the DAO directly. There is one drawback, is that there need to be some economic substance in the Cayman Islands. So if someone is living in the Cayman Island, maybe we can get him a job to just show up to the office. And we will obviously have a quite presence in the Cayman Island, which will be kind of an expense as well. On the legal front, we have now fully staff who are, well, it's not staff, but we have now 3 law firms that are working with us, one on the Cayman front and 2 international law firms. And on the data side, I just made a small improvement on the due analytics dashboard. And now we have the revenues per collateral. So we know now that real world assets are 0.1% of the asset of Maker and generating 0.2% of the revenues, which is not very much. And on the prototype side, we have started to create an on-chain data warehouse to be able to make more analytics without using always due analytics, which has some limitation. If someone has some question, happy to answer. So Lucas, you are asking how high can we get by end of year? Related to what part, especially real world assets in general?
Yeah, I mean, this was more of a question to like other members in the community, not you, Seb. I mean, I know you're interested, obviously, in growing it. More of a like challenge, I guess. How far, how much can we scale this? I think especially as like interest rates are coming down on the crypto collateral, I would expect this to go up quite a bit relative, right?
Yeah, correct. So currently my framework, but obviously the community can change it and can decide whatever they want, is to have no tail risk above the surplus buffer, which would limit, for instance, I thought that in the forum, some people say, well, we have 2 billion of USDC, maybe we can use those USDC and give them to Circle or to do whatever we want. But obviously doing that with 1 billion, with a new legal structure, even if we have the Cayman Foundation that is working well, there is still a bit of risk. So maybe it's better to start with something lower than the surplus buffer, at least for the first year. So that might delay quite significantly the scaling, at least to achieve 2 billion. And I think it was Chris or Brian that said that the issue is that we have the USDC PSM, which is great for liquidity. So if people want to redeem DAI, it's quite easy. And if you use them in real world asset, there will probably be a bit of lag and delay to take back those USDCs that are lent in the real world and put them back on chain. So there was a lot of questions to be answered before we can move a real world asset, let's say above 1 billion.
Thanks for humoring me.
I guess, is there any updates on success, Seb?
Not that Matthew is in the call, so maybe he can do it. I'm not aware of.
Yeah, there are 2 administrative items that are remaining and the transfer instructions with the broker dealer, to which we're expecting the red lines in the next 24 hours.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe Matt, a question to you. You mentioned the enforceability opinions. Obviously, I understand need to be done on the final documents. Are those the final documents for a specific deal or the setup overall? So, like, what's the process for sort of getting the first deal done?
Well, there are 2 pieces you're referencing. So there's the trust structure mixed with Success Capital. And that structure doesn't change. So it's one set of enforceability opinions for that. And then every single transaction that happens downstream from Success Capital down to would-be borrowers, each of those has their own enforceability opinions. But those are done every single deal.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
And what is the timeline for the trust structure legal opinion?
When we close.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Seb? All right. Let's move on to growth.
Hey everyone. So let me share the link with the updates for this week. With the risk coordinator, we had a conversation with Circle following up what everyone was talking in the forum about if we can invest the USDC that we have. We know that Circle, they offer a yield account, but of course they need an entity to sign for the agreements and to pass through the KYC process and through all the compliance that they have because of they are like a centralized corporation that need that. So we took that opportunity about and talk with them and ask them what happens if we decided to lend them 1 billion USDC. If we, in case we decided to do that, if the yield could change because of the volume, and they are not worried about that because behind Circle they are working with Genesis, so they are handling like enormous, huge volumes of money. So 1 billion USDC is not a problem for them. So the yield that the fixed rate that they are offering is it won't change, and it doesn't depend on the amount of money we lend to them. And then, well, there are some questions, and I invite you to go to the forum and start the conversation there about if we want to incorporate and have a company to invest USDC in Circle. I don't know if that makes sense because it will imply a risk for the protocol probably, because in that case we will be using all this USDC that now is seated on the protocol, but investing it in the TradeFi markets, and I think that will be something that regulators and others could be worried about. So it is something to consider and to think about if we really want to put the protocol in that risk for the 4% fixed interest rate. That's something to talk about. We also talk with Syndicate protocol. It's a very interesting protocol. They are working traditional companies to start DAOs to invest their money. So they are using all of these funds from VCs to hire the best legal teams and understand the best framework to create legally compliant DAOs to invest the money of these funds. So now that they have this framework, they want to offer it to the DAOs that want to have this conversation with companies that are not on chain. So they are very interested about MakerDAO. They will be posting in the forum in the following weeks to tell us about what they can do for us. They think they could help us to diversify our treasury, in this case, the USDC, because they can use it to invest in like traditional financial instruments like bonds, for example. So it's something interesting also to consider. And also I invite other core units that are looking for a way to incorporate their business to talk with them. It's very interesting. They can help you to incorporate a company in Delaware, open a bank account, and different things that I think probably you could need. And start of the week, well, we launch our Twitter account. So go to the forum. Oh, I think I can share it here. Follow us. We want to use the Twitter account to tell everyone about our partners, what we are doing, about the Maker community. Like we don't have access to the MakerDAO Twitter account, so we created this one to start like the conversation with everyone. And that's everything for this week.
Yeah. No, I agree, but I'm not saying we shouldn't any of that.
Any questions?
Looks like we're good. Thank you very much, Nadia. All right, let's move on to content production.
Cool. Thank you. Hey, everyone. Seth from Content Production. Few updates. Got a few new hires we're excited to welcome to the team. We've got a video producer and a writer on board. We'll be working through the backlog of content that we've been amassing since we got our mandate. Kind of got a handful of things that we've been working on, but either haven't been able to post or haven't been able to finish for one reason or another. So you'll be starting to see a lot more content from us in the coming weeks, specifically on the YouTube channel and Reddit. That's kind of where we're focusing right now, but it'll definitely be distributed a little wider than that. We're continuing to have conversations with core units about what they're looking to see in the community portal. The plans around the content there are becoming a lot more clear, but we are still having an issue. For some reason, Gatsby is having trouble communicating with GitHub pages. The portal originally worked when the foundation handed it over, but something's not reading right now. So if there's anybody on the call has experience with React, getting React to work with GitHub pages, please reach out. We've also started working on outlining storyboards for a lot of the educational videos we've gotten requests for. So also, if anyone has video content that they're planning on regularly uploading and want help editing or putting some MakerDAO branding on the video, please reach out and we can we'll be happy to help with that. So yeah, in the coming weeks, our main focus is continuing to work on the community portal and get these educational videos, start getting those, making some progress on those. We're still looking for one more writer, and we've made an offer to a community manager. So continuing to onboard the new team members and working to onboard the newer ones once we get them sorted out. And the last things we'll be announcing details on the art contest to decide between the dragon and capybara as a mascot for MakerDAO. I believe that's all from our end, unless anybody else has anything from the team that they want to add or any questions. Otherwise, I'll kick it back to Long.
That last point, you said the capybara one, the mascot thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, this is a little bit of a random question, but on one of the lists of the wanted core units, I read something about Maker Radio or something. Is that something that was connected to your core unit or is separate from someone else?
Oh, I believe it was. We do have an account set up through Anchor to distribute audio to podcast platforms. It was, I believe we were calling it Maker Radio at one point. I believe it's called Voices of MakerDAO right now. But yes, we do have a channel for that. We'll be publishing audio from the videos on there. and we're making some plans to, starting to think about what would be appropriate to host as far as content on there. But if anybody has interest in publishing any podcasts or doing any sort of content like that as well, please reach out. We'd be happy to help coordinate that.
Cool, thank you.
All right. There's no other questions for Seth. We'll move on to sustainable ecosystem scaling. Juan?
Thank you, Long. Can you guys hear me well?
Yeah, a little bit quiet maybe. But...
Okay, I'll try to speak up. Very quick update from us this week. So on the permanent team situation, we have a good problem, which is that we are approaching what was our initial forecast. We're still far from the hard cap, but the initial forecast that we were expecting in terms of budget, we're approaching that very quickly. We are speaking with a lot of great teams that we believe that would help a lot scaling the whole ecosystem. So we are thinking about modifying our budget for anything that has to do with the grant and the incubation program. So that's that. We've been in contact with Gov Alpha to see what's the best way of doing that. Regarding Project Sandbox, and so we'll be speaking more about this tomorrow. Actually, we have Nikolai that will be joined by, I think Maciek will be there, and a bunch of people. Just as a reminder, this is to design and improve architecture for the Maker protocol, and hopefully enable parallel smart contract development. So as Chris and the other teams from P were saying, we should not, or at least maybe not that much, sacrifice scaling for supply, right? So that's a bit the whole idea at the end of this effort. And the following week we'll have Lenka showcasing X-ray. So yeah, that's for our weekly calls on SES updates. On other news, we are speaking with different core units to do this side event. So there's a potential collaboration from us. I think it's Growth that's mainly leading this, but we might be able to help over there. And we're also working with the DAI Foundation on MIPs. So on MIPs that we'll bring more news about that soon. We're also preparing the Lex Maker series, the next episode with Layer 0, and we'll have soon Petru Katana and team presenting Liquidations 2.0. On the incubation side, we have the D-Talent core unit, which is live already. Please reach out for help if you are hiring. They've been helping a lot of core units quite successfully. So yeah. And the other incubes, actually the DAX core unit that are going to be doing this demo today. So I won't mention anything about that. Regarding the Maker community, we had, I think Seth mentioned it, but we had the new silver last Friday. The call is already on YouTube. And we will have tomorrow Monakil, not sure how to pronounce that, Capital Partners presenting their collateral onboarding application. And next Wednesday, we will have, the date is wrong there. Sorry about that. Next Wednesday, we'll have the Launchpad sessions with the Amazix marketing core units that will be presenting their modified proposal. So that's it. As always, these are our contact details. If you want to reach out, send us an email or reach out in the forum, Rocket Chat, or our Discord. And yeah, if there are no more questions, that's back to you, Long.
Thank you, Juan. Doesn't seem like there's any questions immediately. So unless anyone interrupts me, we'll move on. Seems very good. David, are you doing our MIPS update for this week?
Indeed, I am.
Share host.
All right, it's incoming. All right, cool. So yeah, sweet. Yeah, welcome everybody to the weekly MIPS update. I'm David. Y'all know me. So yeah, here is what's going on in June. We have a brand new monthly cycle process. So we no longer have the old system with inclusion polls, bundled governance polls, and then finally a governance bundled vote. We actually have just the regular formal submission period as always during week 1, but now each MIP, subproposal, MIP set, they each have their own individual ratification polls that last for 2 weeks. And so with that, yeah, that's pretty much what we're going through this June, the very first version of this cycle. And so the formal submissions have not changed since I mentioned them here last week. We have MIP 54, the DSS Best. We have a new Gov Alpha facilitator, hopefully being onboarded. We have 4 different budget modifications for existing core units. And we have 1 full brand new core unit, the Oracle's core unit. And so, yeah, in total, there's 7 votes, 1 technical for DSS Vest, and all of the other ones are core unit related. And so yeah, here's kind of an update on the current results because the votes are still going on until Monday, the 28th at 4 p.m. UTC. So just to remind you guys, geez, somebody is ringing my doorbell at the worst time. So just to remind you guys, the ratification polls need a 10,000 MKR requirement here. Actually, I have a slide for that. Yeah, so yes must exceed no when the poll closes, and the yes vote weight must exceed the minimum positive participation value when the vote closes. So at the moment, we could see DSS Vest does not have enough. We could also see that for the budgets, I think only SES does not have enough. So there's basically, of the 7 votes, there's only 2 that are really falling short at the moment. So if you're an MKR voter and you want to see these passed, just be mindful and vote. And so, yeah, feel free to screenshot this if you want to, or look at previous video recordings if you want to review the actual how ratification polls work. But yeah, moving on, there's a few new MIPs in RFC. We saw MIP 55 posted by Amy Jung. It's a special purpose fund that any core unit can use for proposing like side projects and side budgets. We have MIP 52, which was dispute resolution posted by Greg. This is basically a way for any core units or members of the DAO to bring a dispute to an on-chain vote. It is a costly thing to do. It's not something that we should do in any situation, but I highly recommend people check out that MIP and comment on it. I believe Greg is planning to put it up for formal submission in July. And then we have some more budget modifications for existing core units being posted. We have special subproposal 19 for growth, subproposal 21 for marketing, and Juan, I did not forget, we have subproposal XX for Gov, which was posted by a non-Gov Alpha team member, and I talked a little bit about that in the last 2 MIP updates. And then lastly, we also have an updated declaration of intent MIP. So declaration of intents are, MIP 13, C3 subproposals. They basically go to an on-chain vote to see if MKR voters are willing to pursue a certain initiative. And so B Protocol had initially posted one, but never formally submitted for it. For us to do like an experimental native integration with their V1 of B Protocol. So they've updated their proposal to be the V2 of B Protocol. And so it's really cool if the experiment works. They have basically priority to liquidate maker vaults or whoever uses them as their like maker vault custodian. I don't know if that's like a fair thing to say. But basically, if they fail, our system ends up liquidating those positions anyway. So it's really cool to see experiments for liquidation backstops and that kind of stuff happening. So really, really cool to see that in the forum, speaking personally, of course. There's a handful of core units in RFC. So we have Collateral Engineering Services by Monkey Irish. This is a core unit that solely focuses on collateral onboarding. And so actually, like with Protocol Engineering's announcement today about their pivot of of priority, like this kind of core unit would have been super clutch. But anyway, it's an RFC, so we might have it in the near future. The proposed annual budget is about $2.5 million a year with a 6-person team size with an additional 2 temporary roles. There's also Strategic Happiness, which is a core unit that was posted by our community happiness officer, St. Bourbon, obviously unofficial, but his proposed annual budget, I believe, is 0 with a 1 MKR annual grant. I think that might have changed, but either way, check it out. It's a cool thing to help boost morale in the community. A couple more core units. We saw Amazix. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but it is another marketing services core unit being proposed at the DAO alongside Strategic Marcoms, which is right below. And so I believe that they actually did a pod session, they have a pod session coming up this coming week, I believe, as Juan mentioned. So for Amazix, and so their proposed budget from the last time I checked is about $1 million for the year with a permanent team size of 5 people. And alongside, there's Strategic Marcoms, which they went through a monthly cycle and they were rejected. And so Kathleen and the team have actually posted a brand new set of sub-proposals for Strategic Marcoms, including a lot of the feedback that they received from the community. So definitely check those out. The proposed annual budget is now $4 million, so it does not include the original Moonshot Fund, which was like a really big thing that the community did not like. And so they're being proposed with a team size of 8 with 3 planned hires from the last time I checked. And then lastly, we have the Governance Communications Core Unit, which is a core unit that offers like resources and services that focus on information accessibility and communications as an organization, right? And so I'm proposing this core unit. I'm proposing it as a facilitator, and our proposed annual budget is around $450K a year with a starting team size of 3 permanent people, and we have around 7 to 8 part-time contributors. And so, other updates. So the monthly cycle changed, and with it, we are changing the MIPS update. So the MIPS update, as you see it written in the forum, is going to be a little different. It's going to be more timely. So like the first week is going to include a lot of information for authors of MIPS and people. It's going to be a little bit more editorial, like starting the governance cycle. Week 2 is going to go through like the full formal submission list because by then we'll have it. Week 3 will dive into like what the vote is so far. What are the numbers? What are the unexpected like outcomes? What should MKR voters really be focused on? And then week 4 is just a recap of the whole month, basically. So we're doing a bit of revamping to make the information a little bit more valuable to you guys. Let me breathe for a second. And then lastly, we also have MIPS portal progress. So we actually just met with the DSpot team who works on it. And so this last month, they were a little under-resourced in terms of their personal ability to staff and have bandwidth. But that is being alleviated as they're hiring a couple of people this month. And so they're going to be way more able to make progress on the MIPS portal. And so, that's the MIPS update for this week. And thank you. Feel free to ask any questions. And if there's no questions, I think I have to run and go move my car.
Yeah, no problem. Here you go, David. Thank you.
Cheers.
Yeah. All right. So with the conclusion of our MIPS updates, that brings
Can I jump in?
Oh, sure. Yeah, go for it, Brian.
I just want to mention about the DSS Vest. This is not just a solution for make-up investing. This is kind of the plan right now for DAI payments for all core unit teams. Going forward, it's the streaming solution. It's a little more lightweight than the KEG. So I just noticed in David's that it's not getting enough votes to meet the threshold. So if you have the votes, please give them, and if you don't, please provide an alternative. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Brian. Awesome. All right, so I believe that brings us to what could be classed our main event. I've not told you. I think Raphael's doing this. Are you ready to do your introduction?
Hello, I'm Rafael. I'm a developer from the DAX core unit. DAX stands for Development and UX. And we started last week as a part of the SES incubation program. Right now we are a team of five people, 4 developers and 1 designer. Our focus is going to be, and it is the experience of MakerDAO's governance portal and voting. And one of our first process is to add voting delegation functionality to the governance portal. Right now we are in the process of hiring a full-time product manager to help us plan and manage our work more efficiently. So if you know anyone, please let us know. And you can learn more about our core unit in the recording from the last week presentation with the SES, including a vote delegation prototype demo. And as an update on our work, we collaborated with Governance Alpha on the UX and design, which is now approved. I'm gonna share screen a little just to go over the demo, but again, you can see the video from last week to go in more detail. I believe you can see now my screen.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So this is the prototype for the vote delegation. We split the deliverables in three sections, the MVP version 1 and version 2. And right now we are working on the MVP, which is fetching the recognized delegates from on-chain information and with a mix of a GitHub repository that handles the profile picture, name, and description. This is just a brief walkthrough through the voting delegation functionality, where we can delegate some amount, confirm the transaction, and we delegate it over this user. We can access the user profile and show some information. We already have some progress on how are we going to define the vote delegate information of the users. We already create a GitHub with the files and the process. Then we will transfer this to Governance Alpha and to another repository. This is just for test purposes. And we are already rendering this information and crossing it with some mock information to organize on the UI. This is already the prototype, but we will share an update demo when we have something more usable. We already have some pieces in place. And yeah, that's all as an update. If you have any questions, also we have a Discord channel that we are going to share on the chat, so you can join to our Discord of the core unit and come with any suggestions or ideas.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Raphael. Does anyone have any questions or comments? So Nick asking, should there be any limitations on eligibility requirements for delegates? Feels like there's maybe more a question for me than do you have any sort of specifics, like thoughts in mind? Okay.
Sure, yeah. So there could potentially be like a conflict of interest, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I saw your example. So as an example, like having like core unit facilitators also be delegates, I guess. Yeah, so we'll have Gavav will probably write out some like suggestions that people don't do like multiple of these, like 2 of these things, right? But yeah, that'll be something we haven't worked out quite yet and probably won't be part of the UI, right? Yeah, we'll share that sort of before everything goes live.
I just think it's something we need to do sooner rather than later, right? Because otherwise, volunteer to be delegates and that stuff, right?
Sorry, you cut out a little bit there, Nick. Could you repeat that?
Catch that beforehand. Sorry, I know my my connection's super shitty, and apparently my new headphones sound like a tin can microphone. But we should really get ahead of this, right, and make it clear from the get-go what the and it doesn't matter to me what we decide, but we need to have consensus on who can and who cannot be a delegate to prevent kind of these almost like these moral hazard kind of situations.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, we'll kind of give it some consideration before launch, but yeah, not kind of prepared to say anything for sure. Yeah, I don't think.
And the contract itself will be permissionless, so it's really just say over like who the showcase delegates are, right?
Yeah, so that's kind of a good point, right? There's no way of us actually enforcing that someone or some like group isn't a delegate if they want to be. The kind of best we can do is kind of not sort of highlight it on the UI. So yeah, that is a consideration. All right, like Dux and Raphael just saying, like, yeah, that's the UI looks awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it in all its glory. I'm sure it's going to be great. Yeah, so thanks for the good work. All right, that brings us to the end of our planned agenda. So that brings us into discussion and general QA. So if anyone has anything they want to discuss, any general questions they want to ask, not necessarily about what we've talked about so far, please go ahead.
Yeah, I want to tell everyone about the conversations we are having with Binance, Paxos, and Gemini. I think it's relevant now that we are thinking about including those stable coins in the PSM. So I don't know, Mariano, Jen, if you're in the call, if you want to share with everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Nadia. We are talking with those companies, and they are like really interested in to be part of the PSM, right? And we want kind of to use that power as a negotiation tool, right? To see what we can have of them, right? Paxos is really interested to be part of the PSM, and they have one of the biggest and most regulated infrastructure in the whole business. And we are still reaching out a form of agreement on the things that they can provide to the protocol. So I would say that if we can delay a bit the voting of those stablecoins in the PSMs will really help us to be in the best position when we negotiate things with those companies, since according to our first conversation, they really wanted to be part of the Maker protocol in that sense.
Yeah, and to give everyone a little bit more of context, like, for example, we want Paxos to include DAI in their APIs.
Yeah, so that's correct. That's correct. What we are asking mostly is to implement DAI in all of their products, mostly Itbit and their set of APIs and crypto brokerage. Just, they are the service provider for PayPal, Revolut, and some other big wallets and institutions. And the idea is for them to be able to practically have access to DAI in their system, right? The idea is for them to receive dollars, they can mint packs, they can send that packs to the PSM and get DAI ready for their clients, right? This is something that we kind of have with the USDC and the PSM, but it's not directly, that process is not directly owned by USDC, right? I mean, if a company wants DAI going through the PSM, they need to purchase USDC and then convert it into DAI. But what we are asking here to Paxos is to own the whole process, right? And we can leverage their sets of APIs and all their client base. Then for Binance and the BUSD, we are in conversations with some things related to the Binance Card and Binance Pay, and that it's a worldwide application for payments and how to integrate DAI. And well, it's well known that negotiations on Binance took a lot of time and they are pretty difficult. So again, we are in the same situation here. They wanted to be part of the PSM, and it will be really cool if we have some time to negotiate this, right? But again, yeah, I mean, the most, I would say that the company that is offering that right now, one of the most interesting things at this moment is Paxos and their whole set of infrastructure.
And just to be clear, you wanted governance to hold back on voting on chain or in the signal polling?
On chain.
Yeah, I mean the signal poll, but it's more or less complete, right? So
yes, in the on chain thing, so we can have a bit of time to negotiate things and get a better deal for the protocol, and then share with you to see what do you think, and everything will be voted, of course.
I mean, I will say I'm not terribly sure your negotiating position is particularly strong, given that like the community has already indicated that they want these things.
Yeah, but we've been very clear that, I mean, the on-chain voting is the things that matter, right? And they understand the process, and they're willing to follow the process too, right? And this is the cool thing, because now these companies, they see DeFi as as something interesting, right? After seeing what USDC have been done in the industry, they wanted to have like a bit of that. And we know, and they know, that we practically are the creators of DeFi with DAI, right? So it's like a win-win situation that we have right now, but we want to be sure about the deal that we can get.
What does that mean when you say that they want to own the whole process? Is there a forum post about that, or
no? We are still discussing it. Yeah, we are still discussing it. But pretty much, if Paxos is accepted in the PSM, they can practically mint DAI, right? I mean, they could receive dollars, they could mint their packs, they can send that packs to the PSM and get DAI, right? The other way around is also works. If they are able to receive DAI and they send the DAI to the PSM and get the packs, and then the client can send the dollars wherever they need. And this is something very powerful that right now we don't have, except like a prime broker or something like that. We don't have that thing available, because pretty much the DAI comes or from bolts or from the USDC. And as far as I know, I don't know any company that sells directly DAI, minting it through the PSM, because they get the USDC, right? So yeah, I mean, that's the process that we don't have right now, and I think it's a very useful thing for the protocol.
And Mariano, just to remind the community, Paxos is a charter bank, correct?
It's a what?
A bank license in the US?
Yeah, it has a trust. It's a trust company.
Hmm.
Got it.
Another cool thing with Paxos is that they are right now also working on different things related to traditional finance, like bonds and stocks and other instruments that are able to be used to collateralize the Pax stablecoin. So there's also like a way to indirect on board real world assets too.
Yeah, so I would say like the signal process to on-chain process is a little bit looser than some of the other processes we have. So since Shoppy's here and I know it's his signal request, I'm gonna ask Shoppy. Like, do you think this is a reasonable thing to do, Shoppy, to delay the kind of onboarding or decisions until we have kind of I guess more information about this sort of stuff? Oh, maybe it's taking stuff away. Yeah, okay. So anyway, essentially I will talk with Shafi and we might do like another signal or something to see if governance is
related to the prediction that Chris Money put in the chat. I thought that too, but I think that the debt ceiling plays a big role in that situation, right? And well, I mean, USDC could have done the same thing with all the USDC that we have right now in the PSM.
Yeah, just to clarify the prediction. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this wouldn't work, but the idea would be you create a PSM for something like, I don't know, GUSD or PAXUSD, whatever, and then that allows them to basically in one transaction mint a bunch of, let's say, PAXUSD and tuck it into the PSM, get a bunch of DAI, send the DAI through the USDC PSM, get a bunch of USDC, take custody of the USDC, and start a redemption process. So that the new PAX that they've minted is basically backed by the USDC that they hold, and then eventually they end up with the USDC in their bank account. And so the reason I thought of it is because of like bridging to L2s, because bridging to L2s has the same kind of attack vector. And so, yeah, anyway, that's my, you guys can do with that what you want.
Yeah, according to them, they are not able to back Paxos with USDC. It needs to
they'll solve it.
Yeah, it needs to be backed with just dollars, right?
Yeah, I mean, they can get dollars from USDC though, so they just need like enough capital to start the process, and then they can just recycle.
Exactly. So then they're limited by the capital that they have.
And this is the other situation, right? Let's say that we are able to have a good negotiation, a good deal out of that, and we want to start replacing some of the USDC that we have on the PSM, right? So we have two operations to make that happen. One could be them to deploy, let's say, for example, 100 million packs into the PSM to get the DAI, then exchange the DAI for USDC, and they can sell the USDC for those dollars, right? But initially they will be deploying beforehand the $100 million. That is one operation. The other operation could be we send the USDC to them, so it can be sold for dollars, and then to mint the packs, and then that packs is sent to the PSM to give the collateral back. And in that case, they told us that those dollars are going to be invested into T-bills, right? So that has a revenue out of it. And they are able to share that revenue with the protocol. So yeah, I mean, that's the two situations.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like if that sort of attack does happen, it's kind of just a benefit to us because we charge like fees on money going in and out of the PSMs. So like, it's kind of like the best situation for us if they all start doing it, right? Because there'll just be money going in and out of the PSMs all the time. I doubt that'll happen though, right? Either they'll come to some arrangement themselves or they just won't happen. Yeah, anyway, so I'll just kind of speak to, I guess, Shafi, and we'll figure out if we can delay the on-chain polls.
Is there going to be any like deeper side discussion or a call or anything that dives into like this PSM issue?
Related to what we are discussing with Paxos, we are preparing a post right now about this, so the conversation can be also taken in the forum, and we will be updating what we have talked with them.
Got it. Cool.
So I'd be also curious to know, like, what do you estimate in terms of time required to sort of conclude these negotiations, right?
That's a very good question, but according to what we have talked, probably I would say like 2-3 weeks, maybe. If it can be a bit more, it's better. But yeah, I mean, we are very clear on what we are very clear on what we need. Maybe we also need to wait a little bit on their side to see all of the things related to regulations and compliance, right? That those take time to analyze. But yeah, anyway, we will keep you updated.
Maybe we can sort of seek a middle ground or something where we onboard them with like 0 debt ceiling or something, just to get that part out of the way, and then they make, I guess, they negotiate around the actual debt ceiling that we're willing to give them.
Yeah, I think that is more like a risk-related thing. I mean, judging for their stance related to being the PSM, they want to be in the PSM and start exchanging USDC, right, and be part of the PSM with their stablecoin. So, I mean, that could be an option, but I guess that yeah, it will take a lot of negotiation power if we already have them in the PSM.
Yep. All right, we'll give it some thought this evening.
Cool.
I'll get it to you guys. We could, well, so I was asking if we wanted to discuss the conflict of interest concern for delegates. We can. We got like 4 minutes before the official end. But if you want to, I guess, lay out some points, you can.
Yeah, rather than laying out my points, I was trying to better understand the exact concern that there is. Since Nick brought it up, maybe Nick can elaborate a little bit on it.
So my concern here is, for example, like say I'm the Oracle Core Unit facilitator, right? And say I'm also a delegate and I amass like, I don't know, let's say 15,000 or 20,000 MKR, right? That's kind of the threshold for getting a lot of these polls passed, right? Like I could do like a budget increase or something like that and start voting, in my own self-interest, right? So there's situations like that can arise that I'm kind of concerned about.
Yeah, so what I think, if there is transparency with you as a facilitator of the core unit, and that the expectation should be that you vote in favor of what the core unit wants to see, right? So if there is a concern about conflict of interest, as long as there is transparency, and that is a very important point, right? But as long as there is transparency, then people wouldn't delegate to you if they think it is a risk, I would think. So the reason why I think it's not necessarily bad to be delegate as a facilitator is that I think we'll move towards a model where core units will do exactly that, right? Like they will run an operation that figures out where capital should be efficiently allocated, and they would use the delegation power that they have to push the vote in that direction. If there is transparency about that, then I don't think there is anything wrong with that. In fact, I think it's probably it's quite a good way of kickstarting the more representative voting than the direct, not democracy but plutocracy thing, right?
Yeah, does anyone else wanna? There's a little bit of a sidebar chat happening, and I don't know. I was just gonna mention that any sort of core units that are thinking of having a delegate for their core unit out the interest, I think maybe we could, like, however,
I like how we're like perfectly getting
Yeah.
the middle words. Sorry, we missed all of that, Chris.
Yep. So Waters. Did I just cut again?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's uncanny how we get like the first word and then we miss everything past that.
Anyone want to make my point for me? Yeah. Anyway, I share Nick's concerns, and I think that maybe Waters right there. Transparency could help there, but there's an overlooked problem that we'll also have with regards to liability. So no one on the PE team can really has any power, right? They're not like delegated some crazy amount of MKR. They can implement something, for instance, but that's really just kind of free speech, right? It's a suggestion. Governance sort of gives guidance on it, but at the end of the day, like you can't really lay anything at the feet of any of the core teams with regards to liability. They just simply don't have any power. And if you were to try and regulate them, they would have no power and it would be inconsequential. The second you have teams that have delegates at the head of them, all of a sudden they become like much more powerful actors, and you can lie a lot more liability at their feet. And so that would just be the caution that I would give to any teams or people that are already sort of actively participating if they're going to put themselves forward as a delegator.
Yeah, and the liability is a very good point, of course, but it's separate, right? Like, I'm not saying that particularly someone from the PE core unit should become a delegate. I also don't think that's a very good idea. But I do believe that we will have to move towards a model where there is more. There's more delegation in terms of capital allocation, and I totally agree with the challenge there on a legal level. In fact, that's the main reason that I haven't been more outspoken about it. So I definitely think that should be further explored and investigated. But I do believe that it would be better to have core units that specialize in capital allocation, rather than assume that MKR voters will continue to just micromanage.
Well, I mean,
either themselves or to delegates who would have the same problem, right? If they can't be funded, like you would basically be running like an investment vehicle. So that requires not just like the weekends to read up on things. That requires a team of analysts. And how are you going to fund that if not through a similar budget that the core units have?
So I mean, I would point out that there's nothing stopping having like a capital allocation core units present a proposal that the delegates can then consider, right? Like it doesn't have to be the same people like who are proposing it to be the same people voting for it, right? I also made the comment that I don't actually like. I suspect at some point delegates will like vote themselves some sort of stipend, right? And I think that's reasonable given how much like they will have to pay attention to as the protocol grows. Like I obviously won't be in place immediately, but I think that is probably an outcome we will see. But again,
I think Wouter's making a fundamental point, kind of about an engineering limitation we have, just the the throughput of a human brain here, and at a certain point, one person just can't vote knowledgeably on every proposal and every parameter change, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's quite to that point.
There's a second.
But yeah,
I think we're close. I think what we see with the real world assets is that there's complexity there that isn't properly understood by too many people. The other point I want to make is that it also goes in the other direction too, where we are a decentralized organization. There have been many discussions about what is Maker's vision and so on. I do not believe we will have, if we're truly decentralized, there won't be a single vision. There will be multiple visions and many opinions.
Yep.
And depending on which vision or opinion you follow, you will want to make different choices about capital allocation. So that really does move us from a decentralized, like from the fact that we're decentralized immediately follows that you would need to have these multiple options, and that you probably would need people who spend a lot of time figuring out where the capital should go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. So like capital allocation will be a thing, right? It's complicated. That's complex and requires kind of analysis. I'm not convinced that delegates can't even either offload that to someone else, or the delegates can't manage that themselves. Like I think both of those things might be true. But yeah, as I said, like I'm not sort of saying at this point, like whether we should do one thing or the other. Like it's something I have to kind of consider over the next few weeks, right? In terms of any rules. And again, I'll point out there's nothing we can actually enforce, right? Like the contract is permissionless. So if a core unit facilitator does want to do it, they just need to do it and not tell anyone. And there's nothing anyone can really do about it. So yeah, like it would just mean that they're not kind of publicly highlighted in the UI. All right, so we're a little bit over time.
To add,
sorry, go ahead,
maybe last comment. To add what Greg is commenting in the chat, which is that transparency is a superpower. That immediately goes to that argument that, yeah, sure, transparency is a superpower, but if we publish all the information, there won't be a single individual that can process all that, right? So you're kind of drowning everything in information overload, which actually argues for people who specialize in that. And then, of course, having a core unit that would say, figure out the capital allocation and so on, that doesn't, in any case, exclude transparency. You would want to be, you would expect these groups to be very good at transparency too, right? That they can convince everyone that they're making the right decisions.
Yeah, Wouter, I'd contrast that with if you compare core units like an L2 on top of an L1, then sure, that they can go do their own thing, but they need to boil down and map reduce to layer 1.
Absolutely. And that's what you need auditing structures for and so on, right? So I totally agree with that. I don't think it goes against any of the ideas that have been discussed.
Cool. All right, this is maybe something we can kind of discuss some more in my kind of more detail with more time available at next meeting if people are interested. It seems like people maybe are. So I can put this on the agenda for next week and we can kind of discuss it in more detail then. But as I said, we're getting to the end of, well, a little bit past the end of our allotted time. So I think we'll wrap up there unless anyone has any final comments or points they want to make before we all go. All right, seems like we're all good. Yep, thank you everyone for coming, and I'll talk to you all next Thursday.
Cheers, everyone. Bye.
Bye.